start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the mission statement, Patrick?
The mission of Foley Public Schools is to bring together students, parents, staff, and community to provide a quality education with an emphasis on developing the full potential of the individual.
Thank you. And Kelly's grabbing our sheet for open forum for citizens to address the school board. And just a brief announcement for those addressing the board. Foley Public Schools, we do welcome input from citizens as community involvement fosters better decision making and improved learning experiences for all students. While comments and questions are welcome during open forum, law prohibits the board from discussing concerns about individual employees or students in a public meeting. We will stop the proceedings immediately if the employee or student privacy issues are raised and direct the speaker to forward comments regarding individual employees or students to the superintendent. Because we are modeling civil discourse for our community, speakers must present their testimony in a respectful manner. Vulgarity, character, attacks, malice, or specific complaints identifying staff or students by name or implication will not be permitted. The board will not deliberate, discuss, or engage in conversation with speakers during open forum. However, the board may ask administration to review the concerns presented. Lastly, you'll be asked to state your name and relationship to the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Ken, seconded by Nathan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we have the approval of routine business items, which includes consent agenda, board bills, and the approval of the meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I'm sorry, this is second step?
Yours.
Stephanie, okay. So there's a motion by Patrick, seconded by Stephanie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we have a resolution to accept gifts, donations. We have 4 this evening. JDA Builders, we have a $200 donation for the Redact t-shirts. Audio Video Extremes, $200 donation for the Redact t-shirts. And JR Masonry and Concrete, another $200 donation for Redact t-shirts. We also have a donation of $150 of supplies, valued at $150 from the Hillman American Legion Auxiliary for our elementary students. And I will take a motion and
I'll make a
second.
motion to accept gifts.
Second.
Motion is made by Wayne, seconded by Sharon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we have a READ Act update. Mrs. Ryan.
Where's the best place to stand?
Wherever you like. If you want to be up here, you can.
My name is Christy Rum, and I've been here as the district literacy lead, so I've been working with the district to put some of the pieces of the READ Act in place. And I am not new to the district. I've been here for 24 years, all my years at the elementary school, and so I'm using a lot of that foundation to support me in this new position. So thank you for letting me join your meeting tonight, and I'd like to provide some information about the READ Act. I have presented the information to all the districts previously, so it feels a little old at this point, but I feel that it's important that we have the same foundation and the same understanding of the content. And so just with that, just a little background information, we know that the READ Act is a government-initiated and mandated, a government-driven and mandated initiative that's been designed to support all learners in the path to becoming sufficient readers. You know, the goal of this initiative is that every Minnesota child reading at or above grade level beginning in kindergarten. And we know that there are several requirements that go along with the READ Act. One would be my position, and I really am thankful to you for putting that position in place now because we could have waited until the end of the summer, and just having me in place now, I think puts our district in a good position. But another piece of that is the professional development piece. And we know that the state is requiring us to have high quality professional development. We couldn't just pick whatever we wanted, but there were certain criteria that we had to follow for that professional development piece. And so we knew that it had to align with the science of reading, which is a very big term right now in education. You'll also hear the term structured literacy. So science of reading and structured literacy, they go hand in hand. They really have to do with being explicit in your instruction and being sure that you are presenting things in a way that all students can understand and providing them with very applicable purposes and activities for supporting the learning. We have to make sure that we're teaching in the areas of phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary development, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. The professional development has to include information about the brain and how it learns to read, and the nature of reading difficulties, as well as special considerations which would support your culturally and linguistically diverse learners in learning to read. The training would need to contain an end-of-course assessment with rigorous evaluations of learning to demonstrate the mastery of content, and has to align with adult learning theory.
Can you describe what adult learning theory means, please?
So in that regard, it would just have to align with how adults learn, right? And so you'd have to make it connect to what, an adult mindset and strategies that would help the adults learn to read or learn the content. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. The trainers that are involved in the professional development need to be highly qualified. They have to involve, the training has to involve a minimum of 42 to 45 hours of instruction. There has to be a very clear scope and sequence, and a synchronous reflection session, so a live session for discussing the content, and allowing for reflection and thinking and that type of thing. At the end of the course, all participants would need to showcase their documentation of passing the course, and that would be to be submitted to the state. None of the professional development offerings can be associated with a specific curriculum. So even though our district K through 6, for example, is using Wonders curriculum, we couldn't do a professional development that would align with Wonders. It would have to be one of the 3 that the state offered, and it would have to have all of these criteria. Does that make sense? Okay. We know that specific groups of staff members are required to participate in the training through a multi-phase training system. This year, Minnesota school districts are required to begin in phase 1 of the training. And phase 1 for our district involves 75 teachers from the elementary, intermediate, and high school, as well as 2 of our administrators. The phase 1 participants include all of our pre-K through 6th grade classroom teachers, the 3 reading intervention teachers from the elementary school and the intermediate school, our pre-K through 12 special ed educators that are responsible for teaching and supporting reading instruction, and then our pre-K through 12 employees that are responsible for selecting our literacy materials, and K through age 21 educators that are responsible for working with students in the graduation incentives program, and then district administrators. And I may mention that we have 2. We have Superintendent Dr. Perry and Foley Elementary School Principal Mr. Kluber. This is a screenshot of the participants. As you can see, we have candidates, as I mentioned, from the elementary, intermediate school, and high school. And so essentially at the intermediate and high school, it's going to be your ELA teachers, so your English Language Arts teachers, and your special ed teachers. And then at the intermediate, I also mentioned the reading intervention teacher. Our school district has opted to use what's called the OLA Professional Development Training Platform. OLA stands for Online Language and Literacy Academy. It comes from Core Learning, which has been around for a very long time. And we're using that for our phase 1 training. It is in alignment. It was one of the 3 options from the state of Minnesota, so it's in alignment with Minnesota's educational priorities. It is an authorized professional development program that's in compliance with the Minnesota READ Act. We know that OLA combines evidence-based reading instruction and second language acquisition research to support our educators in meeting the needs of a language diverse classroom. It's primarily an asynchronous course. So what that means is our participants will work kind of at their own pace. They can log in into their computer and they can work on the modules. And if their time is up, they can't work on any longer, they just stop and pick it up right wherever they left off. And it has like an electric, like it just saves automatically, if that makes sense. Kind of like a Google Doc. It'll keep track of wherever you're at, and then you can just go right back in and start adding in. The learning platform does require 3 synchronous live sessions with a core trained facilitator. So the training requires somewhere between 45 and 54 hours, and then 3 hours, the 45 to 54 is asynchronous, and then the 3 hours of synchronous. We know that OLA is designed for classroom teachers, reading teachers, special ed teachers, and that it empowers our educators with the knowledge and skills to deliver standards-aligned and evidence-based reading instruction for all students. And that would include our students that would be multilingual learners, students who have English as a second language, and somebody who might be identified with dyslexia. This also empowers our educators to articulate the research on reading instruction and to link our research to practice, as well as how to understand the use of diagnostic assessments and to determine how to use those diagnostic assessments to best support their teaching. OLA offers comprehensive and research-driven content. As I mentioned, CORE has been around a long time. I am in Module 9 and almost finished with Module 9 in the training. Woo! There's 9 modules total. And so I can tell you that, when I did my training in my master's degree, that was in literacy. And then I did the letters training, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. This really supports everything that I've learned already, but it adds on another layer. Some people have said to me, "Are you upset that you have to do this again?" No, I'm not upset I have to do this again, because it gives me a deeper understanding and there's new layers of information to acquire from this. It's very, very deep, and it has really good, so it has good content. It's got great explanations for why that content is important, and it tells you how to apply the concepts into the classroom. They give very hands-on ideas for how to do that. So it really does empower us as educators. There are also instructional videos that showcase teachers actually teaching the concept. So you can watch the video and be like, oh, I could do it like that. And then you can see the reading in action. There are also simulations, and then there are the application and lesson plan pieces that a teacher could use and just put right into action. As I mentioned, there are 9 learning modules, starting with just a welcome module that just kind of exposes the participants to the training, lets them know here's how you navigate the platform, and just kind of gets you into the platform. And then it gets into like the oral language piece and the impact of oral language. Goes into the phonics and decoding piece, which I know you had mentioned earlier, Sharon. Then there's a big piece on multisyllabic instruction, so like your syllables and that type of thing, your syntax, your structure of language, your vocab, your comprehension, and then there's a whole module on assessment. And the assessment piece talks about all kinds of assessments, from screeners to progress monitors to diagnostics to outcome-based assessments. So that's deep. The modules, as I mentioned, are self-paced. They generally take somewhere between 4 and 6 hours to complete. The first module only takes an hour or 2 to complete. And so if something else takes longer, it's nice because that one took a little bit less, about 4 to 6 hours to complete. OLA contains an assessment component, I already said that, for certification. For this component, the participants have to demonstrate mastery in 2 ways. First of all, you have to take knowledge-based assessments. At the end of each module, there's a 10-question assessment, And the candidates, the participants take the assessment to demonstrate their understanding of whatever the content was in that particular module. They must achieve 80% or higher, and the nice thing about it is there are opportunities to retake it if you don't pass it on the first time, which I know was relieving to me and relieving to the staff. And the answers to the questions are in like the text and in the video clip, so it's not like you can't find the answer or figure out the answer either. There's also a written response portion, and that portion is scored on a rubric. It's a 0 through 2 rubric. So 0 meaning not showing understanding at all. 1 would be partial understanding, and a 2 like full understanding of the concept. So within each module, there are several types of written practices. Some are in practice, where you actually think about the content and think, oh, here's how I would put it into practice. There are some that are reflection, like, ooh, what does this mean to me, right? And there's some of them are just like, what did you learn, and write it out. Some of them are quick checks. So like in the middle of a learning segment, like, oh, now let's quick check your understanding of that 2 or 3 questions, something like that. So a lot of different types of checks and different interactions. When you're in the modules, it's pretty, you can quickly click through some of the parts, and then other parts take like deep concentration and thinking.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing like the knowledge test, that's probably like an automatic scoring, but the written response doesn't require a human to do. Who does the evaluating?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you said that. You're right. So with the knowledge tests, those are computer generated and computer scored. And those account for 40% of the participants' grade. Okay? Then another 40% would be just completion of the modules. So watching the videos all the way to the end, completing all of the different pieces that has to be completed. And then there's a 20% part, which is the written component. Those are scored by the facilitator. Okay, so the core facilitator, which is somebody who passed the OCL course, scores those, and those are then human scored, and you would receive that grade after they have done the scoring piece. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just curious about
And then once you receive all of your scoring criteria, then you would receive a certificate to show that you passed the course. And then that would be submitted to the state level for review. If a participant does not meet the benchmark, then it's up to the district to determine how to help that participant become trained. So we have to follow up, or we have to determine, and then our participants will follow up plan for that. For our district, we have our phase 1 participants working in 2 cohorts. Cohort number 1 is the Foley Elementary School staff and Mr. Kluber working together. Cohort number 2 is the intermediate high school staff and Dr. Perry working together. Everybody's working on the same content when they're doing the asynchronous work. They all have the same materials, they have the same modules, and so that piece is all the same. The part that is different is when it's a live session. When it's a live session date, which would be October 16th for the district, December 19th, March 21st. On those dates, the cohorts will work separately, and each cohort has their own facilitator. And those will be, they will take place via Zoom, okay? So everybody will be in their live sessions at the same time, but those intermediate and high school staff will be with Dr. Perry and their core facilitator. The elementary staff and Mr. Cooper will be with their facilitator. Yes.
Question about that. Being that's going to be on Zoom, is it going to be like when we have someone on Zoom on the big screen in here, or is it going to be everyone with their individual device Zooming together?
So the way that it worked for me as a OCL facilitator, and the way that I envision it working, is that each participant will be in their own space. And then they would be, if you are in your own space, obviously, then you can unmute yourself to participate in the discussion.
Oh, that was my concern, was
Yeah.
exactly that.
Uh-huh.
I think we each received a link, and that's part of the attendance record-keeping part, so
Oh.
that we're accountable to finish the course.
Perfect, that answered my next question.
And that is something to know about the coursework is that with each slide that the participants go through, each video that they watch to completion, they get a check mark in their grade book. With each written response, a check mark. Again, those written responses have to be scored, but it still, serves to kind of track their progress. And so my job throughout all of this is to serve as a reviewer or an observer. And so I'm supporting the facilitators. So if a participant can maybe is behind, or they need some in-person support to help them with the content, that's my job. So I will touch base with somebody and say, ooh, I noticed you're a little bit behind. Can I help you get caught up? Let's come up with a plan for that. Was there something that was tricky in the learning that you need me to explain a little bit further? Something like that. So I will be like the hands and feet of the facilitators. Thankful to all of you for setting time aside in our staff's day and our district schedule to do this training. And just in talking with people from other districts, it doesn't sound like all districts are in the same position. So again, thank you for considering that, and I know that staff are appreciative of that as well. Yes, Ken?
Over the years, I've seen a lot of programs like this come and go. Everybody gets excited, and then all of a sudden it's dropped after a while. Is this the ultimate final program that's going to solve all our problems?
It would be easy to say yes, wouldn't it? I do think that it's a step in the right direction. I do think that it's going to provide a very good foundation for our staff. The thing that I think sets OLA apart from some others is that it's looking at all learners, not just looking at mid-level learners or high-level learners, but it's looking at our learners from the very bottom to the very top, and it's putting years and years of credible research into play. And so obviously, as more research is collected, then methods change. And so only time will tell us what the research will tell us next.
As a young teacher, I used to grab onto all of these things. I remember OBE, I was really big on OBE. And grad standards, No Child Left Behind, the new math. In fact, when I was in 10th grade, every student had to take a course on speed reading. And I thought afterwards, an author who writes doesn't write so you'll read what they wrote as fast as you can. I'm not sure that was the correct answer, but I've become a little jaded over the whole thing as a result of it. Now, this is a state program. So what are the other states doing? Are the states doing the same thing?
I know that there are other states that are looking at professional development initiatives as well as the specific, as far as the specifics, I'm not exactly sure.
There's a lot of money going into this
There's a significant amount of money
from the state.
from the state.
A few years ago, at Resource, we got tied in with this, and I can't remember the guy's name now. He's considered one of the top educational people in the country, and we even had him come to speak to us. And a lot of schools got involved in it, and I think everybody's dropped it. Princeton or Cambridge, North Branch, all these schools were heavily involved, and everybody's dropped it. I think people are worried about all those things.
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure who the speaker was, Ken, but, I think one thing that I heard today, I was at a meeting at Resource Training, that we should be really proud of our area schools because we were actually ahead of many schools around the state as well. I don't think that this training is the concepts, and especially, I'm not as far as you, starting on module 2, but it's really going to, I think, shift the way that we approach reading. And I think before there was a time that we would say we're all reading teachers, and now looking at that statement, I think we all said it, but we didn't know how to teach reading, because there is a science of how to teach and to understand the brain development, and it's very detailed on if you're a child that has dyslexia, what your brain looks like compared to one that does not. Learning where speech comes from, there's just so much more that's involved. And I have to say, I think that I believe, and what I've heard from other area schools that have done the professional development training, they have seen an increase in their student achievement scores. And so I would assume that will be our case too.
I know Resource is heavily involved in it, and we got somebody dealing with those things. But I'm still a little skeptical from all I've seen over all these years.
I think,
Yeah, okay.
Ken, when I sat down with Christy, that's the first thing I mentioned to her, that our teachers have been asked over the years to get on this bandwagon, that bandwagon. But the research for this, I really think is different. First of all, the talk of how the brain works, the books have been out for a long time, and they took that and they're putting that into this program. And I'm not trained as a teacher, but I know the only good readers are the ones that truly get phonetics. Phonics has to be there for them to read, and they can take off, and this seems to do it. And I think that the people that know are seeing that there's more good things to bring. And I have more hope for this than I've had for anything for 15 or 20 years. I feel sorry for the teachers to go on this bandwagon, and people used to come and talk to us that they had 53 things in the state of Minnesota they had to do, and if you would actually go back and look, none of those have been removed. Nobody talks about them anymore or does anything, but all that stuff is there, just for kids was, that told us all these different things. And I think our teachers, from what I've heard, they're excited. We definitely made some sacrifices. We want our teachers trained right. Our students do not get as much time with their teachers. But it seems to, so far, it seems to be going good. And I have to say that what I've heard is excitement. And I think it gives us hope.
I would agree. Sorry, I took you off
No,
guard for.
I would sincerely hope for good in the world,
I was going to say that when I completed my master's in 2008 in literacy, a lot of the information that's in this training was part of my training then, so it's not new, right? But I think what's different is that it is looking at the science of reading and how, like Trish was saying, the brain works in becoming a reader. It considers the linguistic aspects of reading, the oral language piece, how to connect, like the sound work, which is the phonemic awareness piece, how to connect the sound to the symbol, which is the phonics and decoding piece, and then it builds on to create automaticity. And when students have developed automaticity, they can free up brain space to allow them to comprehend. And so each piece within the training carefully is scaffolded on the piece before, and they become very interwoven. It's very purposeful. And the thing I appreciate as an educator, like I said, I was in the classroom for 24 years, and this is something that I was hoping for, even given my background, just last year, right? And something that I was looking for was the how. How can I take all this information and put it into action in the most meaningful way to impact my students and impact positively our student achievement?
I sincerely hope so.
I hope so too, Ken. I do believe, though, in anything that I've read, and just in the fact that I've been in education now 24 years, that this is truly a next step. I really do, and I feel that it's again grounded in years and years of research.
And I just want to add that we are incredibly fortunate to have you doing this. I remember back when my kids had you as a teacher, being in the classroom and listening to how passionate you were about reading and literacy and all the things, and being able to just build upon that as a classroom teacher. We are very, very grateful. Thank you.
And like I said, I'm thankful to be in this position because I know how badly I was hoping there would be somebody in this position. So to be in this position is an honor for me, and I just look forward to supporting our district in all things literacy.
One last question for you.
Yeah.
So we just had our first half day last week,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you said the October is the first speaker or leader.
Mm-hmm.
What's the vibe so far? What's feedback have you gotten from the team?
That's a great question. And so last Wednesday, we kicked off the training in the auditorium. And essentially I went through just like the module information, and then we did some some work with teamwork and building champions. And we said, that's kind of our end goal. We want to build our students to be champions. And so we said, we're going to train like champions so we can build champions in our learners. And I felt like when we left, people left with a positive vibe. They were kind of springing down the hall to get going. And people have reached out to me and they thanked me for the work that I've been doing. And they told me that they're excited about the learning that they've been doing. People that have come to me with concerns have just, just wanted like something answered as far as, how should I follow this training schedule? Or, what does this look like? Very little things, but things I've been able to answer. And I feel that the vibe has been very positive.
Glad to hear it.
So this can take 2 years, that's what we're allowed. We're doing it in 1. What does our next year look like then?
So that's a good question.
We're waiting for direction on that because we know the instructional support staff, so like our EAs, for example,
Okay.
but it has not been clear on what that guidance is going to look like for the training. But we also have to keep in mind too that we'll have new staff that will be brand new teachers, for example, that we're going to have to train because in college courses right now, it's not being offered. It will be, but when you're a senior, you're not really going to have it in your last year.
And we're getting some monetary support for this.
That's correct.
So if we're done with the major push this year, do you see a continuation of the financial support?
That's a really good question. On the last webinar that I had watched, they're anticipating yes, but we don't know for sure. We won't know until the end of this session.
I think they offer the 2 years of training too for those who are doing the letters training, which is designated for 2 years, where OLA is a 1 year.
Talk to your representative and senator for continued funding, I think would be something to do.
As I had left off, thank you again for setting aside the time for the staff. I think they're very appreciative of that. I'll speak on their behalf. In that regard, we know that the early dismissal dates and the teacher workshop dates have been added to the district calendar. Each of the participants has been provided with a pacing schedule to support the training so they know, like, this is how much content I need to have finished before this live session. This is how much content I have to have finished before this next live session and so forth. So just know that that's an offer to them. We did kick off the training last Wednesday on that first early dismissal. And we plan to finish up the training on March 21st. Our work will not be done on the 21st, but the OLA training piece will be complete. We'll just be carrying next steps from there, just in putting pieces into action, right? And then we know about the demonstration of mastery piece and that the participants need to pass their requirements for that. I talked about a lot of these pieces. One thing I didn't mention yet is the final portfolio. So at the end of training, one of the last steps that the participants do is they submit a portfolio, and that portfolio has all their test scores, it has their work completion, and then those core selects 9 different assignments from throughout the training to do that evaluation piece with the rubric for. So 9 pieces will be evaluated. And so it's 40% knowledge test, 40% completion, and then 20% of the review piece. So as I mentioned, I'm in module 9 and just about finished. And so I can say the following pieces with confidence about OLA. It's well sequenced, well organized, it's easy to follow. The content is rigorous. I'm going to tell you that it is rigorous, but as I mentioned, it's very valuable in how it's grounded in years of research. The learning outcomes can be applied to many levels of instructions and diverse groups of students. So, a concept could be good for somebody from preschool all the way up to high school level. So just kind of know that, and even like a high school teacher to understand how the brain works for reading development, how speech impacts reading. Those are important concepts for all teachers to know about. The training comes with 2 big book resources, one thick one. I wish I brought it with. I'm so sorry I didn't. But it's called a source book. It's got like 400 or 500 pages in it. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. And then there's also an assessment book. And in the source book, it clearly tells what each concept is and why it's important how to apply the concept. And then I also mentioned the videos and resources that are available. They are logical and they're very, very helpful for applying learning to the classroom. As I am going through the training, I'm thinking about Dr. Perry going through this training and how it will benefit her, and how the preschool teachers are going through it and how it will benefit them, and Mr. Kluber and how that would benefit him. And so lots of, my brain constantly is like code switching between kindergarten teacher to a high school teacher to an intermediate school teacher, and what that would mean for each level of teacher. And I can see the value at each level. So that's kind of what I have for you tonight. Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for coming here tonight, but it would be wonderful if maybe like in January or February, you could come back and tell us, you know, maybe how some people are already using it, because staff has told me the minute I can use this immediately with my students, and how you overall feel that the program is going.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, just to address that a little bit, I've already had staff coming to me and wanting to know, what does CORE recommend for this kind of assessment to help these students? And how about, I want to teach my kids how to blend words. Do they have specific strategies for how to do that? Yeah, let's look at this. They can't, so this is a limitation, but it's actually not. They can't jump ahead in modules because the CORE wants you to learn in succession, but because I'm on module 9, I can showcase a piece, so I can say, oh, you're starting word blending next week. Here are 3 ways that you can do it. Let's look at which one best would meet your students. And so this is the source book. And, you know, as I said, it's chock full of examples and content, and each section starts with what it is, what. Print awareness explains what it is. And then it'll go, and then it has very nice graphics, very helpful. Why? Why is print awareness important? And then it'll go into the when. When should you be using that kind of instruction in your classroom? And then the how. And I'll break it down for every concept in the book. And then this is the multiple measures or the assessment book. And it actually has the different assessments inside. It tells you again what they are, why they're important, how to administer them. They give you practice items to use with the students, and then the materials that you need for carrying out the assessment. So it's very, very hands-on.
One other comment, I'm a very avid reader, but there's one thing I would always was weak at, and that was taking tests where they ask you to read a paragraph and then later on answer the questions on it. Is this going to be something that's going to solve that problem for the
So one thing that CORE does that's really great is they break learning apart. And so they'll take a segment of learning, they will have you read it, and they'll say, this is your source book study. Read page 120 to 125. Okay? Now, what does that mean to you? Just put your original understanding of the content down. Now watch this video. We'll explain it a little bit further. So like, you know what I mean? There's another layer. And then they might give you some kind of practice activity or a question to answer. And then you might go back to that right to learn and write more about what you learned. So it does break it down a little bit so that you're not having to read like 75 pages at once or one to just answer one question about it.
Because that would be a great problem to solve. There's a lot of tests that students take, especially going on for ACTs and other things like that, and camp questions like that.
For sure. For sure. And we know that academic text is harder for students to access and harder for people to read too. However, we need to prepare our students for that because obviously the majority of our text in the high school level, college level is going to be informational. So.
I'll just give one last comment that nearly 40 years ago, my mom was one of the pilots for companion reading.
And I'll tell you what, there are things in CORE that remind me of your mom, because I know her,
yeah.
and I remind me of companion reading.
And that's all I can think of. And she she went through the training and she liked it so much, she switched who my teacher was going to be. She's like, this is what she wanted her kid in. And as you're talking and stuff, that's all I can think of too, is how excited my mom would have been to see all this and to see all those pieces coming together and everything. So I want to say thank you so much for your great work.
For sure, thank you. And I would be honored to come back in January, so,
Thank you.
yes.
Well, it's clear, Christy, that you know your logo and read that inside out, and so.
That was one of my first jobs, to start reading the redact over and over, and writing down notes and becoming as expert like as I could in understanding it.
Thank you.
Well, Chris, I'll get that thing for you. That's awesome. He was a real learning expert, and everybody followed him and all that stuff. I got to
We're going to move on to Benton Stearns, and this is discussion action. Is Ann Norton here this evening? Or?
No, if you're, for people that are watching at home, we had a work session regarding this topic, and so what we're looking at for tonight is to approve the amended and restated bylaws of Benton Stearns. And this is something that the Benton Stearns Board, which is Ken, he is a part of that. This has gone through their board with their member districts, so there's 6 member districts, and each member district has to pass this particular document. And then one of the changes that we have spent a significant amount of time talking about when Erin has been here, I believe she's been here for a board meeting too, correct? And then I know she's been here for another work session too, is looking at the possibility of leasing a space. And as you recall, our Voyagers and Pioneer building, we need to make a change because they're just not functional anymore for student learning. And for people that are watching in our audience too, these facilities, they serve our highest level of needs of students. And so this is really important, and as we've talked before, the great thing about being part of Ben Stearns Education District is that we're not large enough to have these services ourselves. The services that they provide, so for example, an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, those are all services that we have come from school psychologists from Ben Stearns. So one part of the document then allows us to use our lease levy authority for $65 per pupil. And this particular lease levy is the only way we can use this. We can't use it for any other means except to help support the education district. So that's just a bit of background.
And this is well thought out. I mean, we've got that building in Sauk Rapids, and it's deteriorating. And the cost of keeping it up is going to be overwhelming. And I think we'd like to really be in one central location, which would be best for everybody. And it costs some money, but I think for what it would cost us if we were to try to do these things on our own, it's sort of to do that for us.
Ken, we couldn't do this
We
on our
couldn't do it
own.
on our own.
Well, I think it's important to remember that they did cost out trying to renovate and trying to do those things, and it was going to be a greater cost.
They couldn't even get insurance coverage
That's correct.
because it was so depleted.
And some of the other issues that we've talked about, it's not ADA compliant, the elevator doesn't currently work. I think there's a host of issues with that building, and anytime that something goes wrong with the building, the member districts do have to put money towards that. So it's just not responsible to the taxpayers as well.
So it should just be noted for anyone who's watching it or at home or wherever that there's been a long process and lots of meetings to get to these bylaws from the Benton Stearns Education District, of which there's 6 members, which we are one. And we all have to basically do this together because none of us 6 can do it. So who are the member districts besides ourselves, just so everyone knows kind of like who's in the boat with us?
Kimball is one, Sauk Rapids, Bryce, Sartell, Ricori, Foley, and then Holding Court.
So when you think about it, and I think a lot of people would think, well, Sartell, Socraft, Rice, those are really big schools, but the services provided by BSED are so extensive that even a school much physically larger than us still wouldn't be able to do that. So, and we need to be able to provide these things for our students. So it's very important that we go through this, and the amended bylaws that get passed tonight, they're kind of really just written up so that they now have the authority to go forward with leasing in the future instead of having like a specific name of this is what we're leasing and things like that. Just giving flexibility for that board to make those decisions and things, if I'm understanding it correctly.
And there are schools that use it more than we do, but then they pay more than we do also, so.
Correct.
Now, is this,
Before you ask your question, Sharon, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, when we're looking at the Voyager building though, we're a sixth owner of that, so whatever those costs are different, but when we look at Pioneer, for example, that's when we pay like the proportionate fee to what we use.
And that's the Pioneer building, it's separate from college, right? And then we also have parts at Sartell that we pay them for.
I don't believe we're using the Sartell campus anymore. We had in the past, okay, right?
At one time it was
Oh,
very,
yes, yeah, sorry, okay.
at one time it was very heavily in Sartell, and
Right.
as they got bigger, they kind of
I
put
think it
it
was
aside.
connected.
And we also have a building in Sartell, if you've seen that one, following the full building basically, and we would get rid of that also. That's, we own 1/6 of that.
So we're 1/6. Does she indicate the other 5 member districts are going forward and?
Yes, and so tonight, two already have approved, Recording and Holding Forward. And then tonight, there's 3 of us that are meeting tonight. And then the last will be Sartell, which I believe is next week, maybe?
Or Wednesday, I thought she said.
Is it Wednesday, Sartell?
Yeah.
They are the last though.
now, does this just agree to the bylaws and not the money? They'll come back to us and we'll have to have another motion to agree to the lease agreement?
I don't believe so, Sharon.
So this is actually agreeing to the taxation portion for the community.
It allows for the lease authority to occur, but as a district, remember we talked about that there are a few other options. So we could levy a portion of it, for example. We could levy a portion, pay for the remainder of the lease with our general fund, but again, I would not recommend doing that. We could pay for the whole lease just with the general fund if we wanted. We have the general fund rebate as well and a portion of the levy. But looking, I know Erin, I don't want to steal your thunder coming up, but I do think that with our lease levy and truth in taxation, I don't think we're going to see a real high increase into the tax base either. And again, it's as a few of you have said, we can't do this by ourselves.
And we're mandated to service these students too.
Correct. It is
At the same time.
And I think all 6 members, like what I can tell, have a great deal of faith in her and leadership. She was just an excellent person at this job.
And as you alluded to, Patrick, that this has been hours and hours and hours of work put into this. And remember that when Erin was here last week, and Erin, Masca, correct me if I am wrong, but if we levy for it this year and we don't see the lease happening, it wouldn't impact the tax base either this year.
And remember, Aaron is a product of Foley. I always talk about great products that we produce in the Foley. So that's another one.
Well, and BSED's a little special to us because, well, Ken, how long have you been on that board, the Benton Stearns board?
Well, I was off for 4 years, but probably about 10, 12 years.
And then our own, Ms. Noska, you do the financial piece for them as well. So we're very connected with the Benton Stearns Educational District. So
And Aaron Naska has done quite a bit of work on this.
And
as
before
well.
they were doing the cross for many years.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I would look for a motion and a second on the Benton Stearns bylaws.
I would move to approve the bylaws.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, seconded by Stephanie. All those in favor signify by saying
Do I
aye.
have a, can I have a vote in this?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we have the levy certification of 2024 payable 2025.
So this is just something that's done every year. I'm suggesting that we levy to the max. It's not final yet. That happens in December at our truth and taxation meeting is when we actually approve the levy. Right now, it's just to say, yep, we want to levy to the max, to make sure that we're not missing out on any funds. But I just want to point out, when you look at this attachment to the agenda, it's not correct. This is not going to be the final number. That lease levy that we were just talking about with Benton Stearns, I'm not sure what's happening, but they're having issues at the state. It's not on the report right now. So that's not, this number, I just want everybody to know is not accurate at this time. But it's just a representation of what we're looking at. I don't think we're going to be far from it, but just so you know, that's not 100% accurate yet. We're waiting for the state. They do several runs through November or through October to make sure that we're getting everything that we need. And then again, we'll certify it in December.
And this is our standard procedure that we do levy to the max. It's an official board action.
Yep.
I've been here, I'm the new guy, well, not the new guy anymore, because of Wayne, but I can remember asking that question, like, why are we levying to the max? And it's because we cannot change it after tonight. So we have to do the max tonight because we can't come back in October and say, oh, we should have done more.
Right.
There is no undo button on this one. We're going higher, so.
So with that, I would need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to levy to the max. Second.
Motion by Nathan, seconded by Wayne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to policies, we have the following policies. This is for discussion and second reading. I'll call for public comment on the following policies. Policy 103, complaints, students, employees, parents, other persons. Policy 203.2, order of the regular school board meeting. Policy 203.5, school board meeting agenda. Policy 524, internet technology and cell phone acceptable use and safety policy. Policy 531, the Pledge of Allegiance. Policy 533, wellness. Policy 704, development and maintenance of an inventory of fixed assets and a fixed asset accounting system. Policy 709, student transportation safety policy. Policy 206, public participation in school board meetings, complaints about persons at school board meetings, and data privacy considerations. Is there any discussion on these policies?
Since the last meeting, has the policy committee met?
No, we've not.
Well, nothing's changed from the last time.
That's why it's a second reading.
Two-
The Pledge of Allegiance policy 531 was updated.
Right, and it says daily, the word daily. We actually don't do it daily. We don't do it during the summer or when students aren't here. I think we can be more specific in our language and say each and every student contact day. Or we can find language that actually states what we really do. It's
But don't you feel it's implied that if students are not in the building, they wouldn't have the Pledge of
I don't
Allegiance?
know. When you assume, that's exactly where you get a lawyer or something involved. I mean, it's every student contact day, and it's not during the summer.
And is it every student contact day, or are we counting like,
Exactly.
are we counting like E-days or things like that as student contact days?
I mean, I think we need to find the wording that really states what we do. And the one on the order of the regular school board meeting, that's not what we do at our school board meeting. Presentation of additional bills for payment, I've never seen that in 24 years. And on here is not the opportunity for open forum for citizens to address the school board. I'd like that here, and I'd also like to it to be considered that it's at the end of the meeting.
And it also states, Sharon, that it's up to the school board chair and the superintendent to set the meeting agenda. I'm the school board chair for 3 more meetings. And so in January, if this policy wants to be looked at again, it can be looked at again. And it's gone through the policy committee, which is made up of 3 school board members.
But it isn't what we do at our meeting.
And these are also MSBA model policies. So for us to change an MSBA model policy is not a good idea. They've had attorneys look this over time and time again.
For this one you say, but it was okay, last meeting you proclaimed that it was good that we were changing the Pledge of Allegiance policy to be saying what we did. I just think it should, I think the First Amendment is important, and the open forum for citizens to address the school board is important, and the parents, the teachers, all the staff in the community are our partners.
And no one's denying that, and they're given an opportunity at the beginning of the school board meeting. In all the school board meetings I've been to in the last 6 or 8 months, there's been nothing positive said on the comments side at the end of the meeting except for one individual. And so there are other opportunities for people to address the board. There are other opportunities to address administrators. There's telephone, there's email, there's in person. And so this is the way that this is. It can go back to policy. That's why it is, again, the second reading can call for public comment.
And I don't like feeling it that way. If the board thinks right now that we should have a public forum afterwards as well as before, we should be able to have it.
And that's why it's at the second reading. And if you want to come address the policy committee, then you can do so with your opinion.
We can't decide right now, right here is the board.
No, it's not. It's not on the agenda. The agenda is approved.
Well, I think we're really missing the point there.
So it'll go back to the policy as a third reading.
I just have one quick question, because when we were in the policy review the first, I think the direction that we were given from the committee prior to reviewing the Pledge of Allegiance was to state that we say it daily. So what I'm hearing is that we need to have it more specific to student contact days, but do you see like it starts to get a little bit jumbled? You know, Patrick, to your point, E-days and other different days, and so I think that's why when model policies are written, that they're a bit more broad to allow for that flexibility, and that's how the current policy reads from MSBA, with the flexibility. And then the other thing that I just want to point out about the board meeting agenda, that's suggested. I believe in that language in that first paragraph, I have to come through my policies, but I believe it was suggested not that this is the order of the agenda, it was suggested.
Yeah, I think daily keeps it very broad in the way of, I mean, if you start saying every contact day, you know, now I was trying to think like summer, we have, some kids are here for summer school, so we're going to be doing it in the summer, so, I mean, I think it just.
Maybe daily is as,
Well, and if MSBA uses that to have flexibility, so once we start narrowing it down to student contact days, which some like, yeah, that makes sense, you know, not E-day, then you start thinking about summer school. And you start thinking about, you know, all of those things, and do we need to define all of that? I think we follow what MSBA's policy is, it's been through the,
So who's on the policy committee?
I'm on the policy.
Okay.
Wayne.
Now, so when this comes to the second reading, we come back to the third reading, if the majority board says we don't want this that way, we want it some other way, then we could do that, right?
Well, I believe it would have to go back to the policy committee because it's voting against what the policy committee is recommending.
It's hard to define, and daily just, again, our guidance is by, a lot of times MSBA keep it that way, and that's why we go with it. But otherwise, if you're gonna define we have to have every single day in the district calendar. Are we doing the pledge today, are we doing the pledge tomorrow, or are we doing it would have to be really,
I think Sheriff is talking about, if you got a rule that states that, then the rule isn't quite, it's too broad.
But as a matter of our practice, just so everyone is clear, you do say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day.
We fought for that.
Student contact days.
and that's what it's the most.
Yeah. It is our practice, and I think in the policy, of all the policies, of course, it's the one I can find easily. I think MSBA says at least once or twice a week, I can't remember, but they give a minimum number. We say it every day.
Well, and I always thought the best part of that policy was also it does allow that, student objects to it for whatever reason, if they're a foreign exchange student, and maybe it feels a little weird to pledge allegiance to a flag of a country citizen of, or whatever reason, that they do have the option to respectfully not participate. And I think that's, and to get really to the point, in the heart of the policy is providing an opportunity for observance, and that we enshrine that opportunity more than anything else.
I just want to make it really, the more, whatever we do, it's gotta be clear, it's gotta be understandable, not where people can put down, okay, do we do daily, do we do the students in the building, well, what about sporting events? And somebody, well, we did it once or anything. I mean, I just want it to be clear, that's all I want, it's clear.
I think the question
And so-
for you is how much do you want to muck it up, because we already have a practice in place
Right.
to do it on a daily basis.
I just want it to be clear.
Are there any other discussions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the budget and enrollment report. Ms. Wilson?
So we're still, compared to last time we met, we're staying pretty consistent with our members. We actually talked about this at an admin meeting the other day, and we decided to hold off until October 1st when our accounts are true, and that's what the state will be using before we update anything on our ADM, it's called ADM We on the MDE site. We just want to make sure that we're not jumping the gun by, say, our enrollment's up from what we projected earlier in the year, and then come October 1st and for some reason, 30 kids are gone. So we're still consistent with where we were last month, but we're waiting until after October to update our numbers to the state.
And I always appreciate when, our projection is lower than our actual, because since all of our funding really is determined by, obviously, the students and everything. And so, I say this partly for anyone who's watching at home, maybe it's their first meeting or anything, but when we project, and we're saying, that's really how we're determining our budget then, is we're saying, we're gonna predict this many students, and to see our projection lower than actual, budgetarily makes a lot of sense, and is good financially for the district. So, and I tended to harp on this in my first few years on the board, because I always felt like that was not, we were always trying to get, I thought, really too tight, and so I appreciate the effort in that, and I think that's part of our financial journey is that sort of practice, so thank you.
Did you have anything else, Karen?
No.
Then we're going to go on to administrator information and reports. Dr. Perry, do you have anything?
I do have a report, so I'll wait for Kelly to put that on. This,
Which is,
my work report. So we can
yeah.
that way.
Oh, hang on, I don't have that pulled.
So one thing that I had mentioned in my report that I do want to thank Christy Rom for all the work that she's done, because it's really been, it's been good work, but it's also been challenging work as well. And to see 75 people come together in our auditorium with matching shirts, and to the public that donated for those shirts, and to see everyone, there is a level of, I think when we first got there, it was a little bit scary. It was intimidating because you saw the book and you saw what the requirements are. But I think after Christy's presentation, everyone breathed a little bit, and that was because of her leadership. And to see 75 blue t-shirts walking down the hallway and they're ready to go to school, and some other kind of fun things that we have planned throughout the whole redact. And not only that, but I think the other really important part is to see how our students are engaging. So when they see teachers wearing matching t-shirts, when teachers show them the book that they're learning right alongside to really benefit their own practice. And I think for the public as well, to see that our teachers use this time. We had everyone complete module 1, and people started module 2, so people are taking this very seriously, and I think really just taking advantage of the time that they're given. And we know that, going into October, we have to get through module 3, and I will tell you, it is a lot of work, but I'm enjoying it as being part of the cohort, and I think it's another really great discussion piece that we're having in the district as well. One of the other things that I did want to mention, that this month is School Board Recognition Month, and so we do have a certificate in front of you, and I'd like to thank all the board members for all the time and energy that they put into the school district. It is sometimes a very thankless job, and I think that a lot of members of the public don't realize the time that goes into being a board member. So thank you for serving, because it definitely is a role of service. And in honor of that, we do have apple crisp after. It's a fall theme. We were going to have hot apple cider, but determined that it was going to be too warm for that today. So we have a big iced apple cider with caramel. Somebody in the kitchen did, and it was big fresh today, so I'm sure it's going to be absolutely wonderful. Big brothers and big sisters. Unfortunately, when our board packet was due, my meeting was after that with Ann from Big Brothers and Big Sisters. But I did want to share with you the handout from Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And to me, talking with Ann, who is the coordinator of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Minnesota, first of all, anyone that's involved in this program is quite passionate about it. And when you look at the difference that it makes between bigs and littles, and the relationship that's not only formed during the school year, but how those relationships continue. So it's just wonderful to be able to partner with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So you can take the time and look to see what the impact is by having a mentorship, and you can see that what our littles are reporting is significant. So I think that is wonderful, and something that the community should be really proud of, that we are part of that. We have so many of our students that are involved in that. And then finally, it's hard to believe, but this is week 3 of school. And I'd like to thank all of our staff and students for being here and just being part of the organization. Our staff have put a lot of time and energy, our students, and learning. I think it's just wonderful to see so many kids back in school and to have life again. in our hallway, and I think kudos to all the staff members too that help support the work that happens to get to this point, the continued work that they'll do supporting our staff and our students this year. Oh, and then one other thing, I'm sorry, that's at the table. You'll see a certificate of recognition, and this was in recognition of our elementary school for PBIS, our positive behavioral interventions and supports. And I believe this was awarded to maybe 40 schools in the state, Mr. Kluger?
Something like that.
Yeah, not many, and so this is really a testament to the work that our FBS, our PBIS team also puts into making this such a successful program for our school and our students. So thank you to the FBS team.
Do you have anything else? Erin, do you have anything? All right, and then we can see our meeting and event notices. This week we have the Community at Big Truck Night. We have homecoming week coming up. We have an early out on September the 25th for K through 6th graders. Our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is October 14th. And then on October 21st will be the candidate forum at 6:30. And the forum starts at 7. And we will move on to administrators' comments. Mr. Inglis?
At our last board meeting, I did an update on our participation numbers in our activities grades 9 through 12. Since then, school has started, so our intermediate level junior high programs have started, in addition to our fall musical. And the participation numbers are very on level with what we had last year. We have one less participant when you add up all of our junior high activities and the fall musical. So that just can be fluctuations in just the number of students that we have in our various grade levels. So that's good to see that that's holding very steady as far as the participation level is concerned. We started with our online ticketing. That was a big task, and there's a lot that went into that. And I just want to thank everybody that's had a role in that, all of our table workers that are getting used to the new process of checking people in with an online ticket, to Corey Gross in the office for helping with a lot of the troubleshooting aspects, and then just to our community members too for embracing something new. At our first, we've only had one football game. We've had swimming and volleyball since then, but it was over 50% of our ticket sales have been coming from the online version versus cash at the door. So that's good to see that we're taking that on and embracing the new process. I do want to put a quick plug in. The Foley Activities Boosters has our fun run / walk next week, Friday, on homecoming Friday. Registration starts at 3:30 with the fun run starting at 4 o'clock. It's an opportunity for you to get out, get some exercise, and then there are members of the community that are having various booths that are being set up around for you to interact with, play games, have the opportunity to meet various different members of the community. And then that's also tied in with the Touchdown Club's tailgate party. So there's music and games and activities and things for people to participate in. You can register for the fun run walk through the community website if you're interested in doing so, and we would strongly encourage you to take place in that, because we did it last year for the first time. We're doing it again this year, and it was a great opportunity and just a nice way to promote Foley with the homecoming and the large numbers that we're expecting with that as well.
Mr. Bierman?
All right. We had a good workshop week. We had Senator Kamphoff talk to our staff, which she did a great job of talking about grit and resiliency and how to deal with things when things don't go your way. I thought it was a great message for our staff to hear. Our open house was well attended. We had a lot of traffic in and out of the building, so that was wonderful to see too. First day of school, we had good positive energy in the building. Good to have the kids back. One of the things we're working through right now in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade areas, it is pretty warm in those classrooms. So we are moving some kids out of the classrooms, close to using this space that's air conditioned, having kids sit in the hallway. We'll just get into some areas where it's a little bit cooler, not so oppressive with the heat humidity that we have. It's hard to get that building cooled down in areas that aren't climate controlled. So one other thing we did the first week of school with our PBIS program, we had every single student go from area to area of the school building, and we taught our school-wide expectations. And one of the powerful parts of that for our building this year is we had, for example, Steve Strucker, one of the custodians, talk about hallway expectations and what happens when there's a mess in the hallway. If he's all the way in high school, he has to stop what he's doing and come clean up. It really made an impact, I think, for our students to know, hey, if I do this, this is going to cause some harm to somebody else. We had Kim Foss in the cafeteria talk to our students about cafeteria expectations. And again, I think it's super impactful when you put that face to a person that works in that area, that's passionate about that area, and hey, if you're not following directions, this is some of the harm that could cause this person. So that was a great job our PBS team did, our staff did, as far as taking some time out of the day to teach those behavior expectations. School board members, thank you for what you do. School Board Recognition Month. You guys definitely have a difficult job, and I think Dr. Perry nailed it. I had a lot of time. It's thankless work, but it's excellent work that you guys do on behalf of our school community. I do want to touch on our change of process for lunch and lunch recess. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we took recess out of their lunchtime, so we had opportunity for more seat time for students, more opportunity to eat. One of the concerns we heard with students is not having enough time in lunchroom, or feeling rushed, like they had to rush through, so we had a lot of food waste. So within those changes, we have allowed for more time for students to eat and not rush. For 7th and 8th grade, on average, those students were outside for about 7 minutes. So just, when you think about moving that amount of students in that amount of time, is it worth the 7 minutes transitioning that many kids for 7 minutes? So it has allowed more time, more seat time in the cafeteria for students to eat, not feel rushed, and not waste food. One concern we've heard in the past is students rushing through at recess time, they're going to dump the tray no matter where they are in lunchroom and take off and go to recess and stuff. So it has helped as far as not wasting food, giving kids more seat time in the lunchroom. It's kind of calm that time down so people don't feel hurried. And just so everybody knows, we do have a population of students that have come and said, thanks a lot. We don't like going outside. This is not, it's not a great area for 7th and 8th graders. There's not a lot for us to do. So there was some appreciation as far as from a population of students that with that change. So.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
Yep, just a brief update. This past spring, really early summer, Tiffany Neese wrote a grant that would allow us to purchase the materials and build an outdoor learning space out in front of the elementary schools, the south of the Ronaby wing there in that grassy area. Those materials have started to be delivered now, and so construction will begin on that in the next week or two. Once that does get started, the construction will go pretty quickly. Right now, I've been just waiting to get all the materials here and ready before construction starts. So that is happening. Just a quick plug, Becky mentioned it, Big Truck Night is this Thursday night. That's a big event. Tiffany Neese has also been very instrumental in helping that get up and off the ground. This is year 2 of that, so good turnout there. It's in the West High School parking lot over by the tennis courts. Starts at 5 o'clock. To kind of echo something that Mr. Bierman had said, the elementary school also does the beginning of the school year learning stations for our students to cycle through in all those common areas of the building. So for example, we talk about hallway behavior, bathroom behavior, cafeteria behavior, playground behavior. Lori Landowski does the cafeteria behavior. Different staff members do the other areas. I do the playground, which was good. Get to see all students at the elementary school out on the playground talk about how to be safe and how to have fun on the playground. One thing we started transitioning to this year is having in-person talks. We have staff who are recording themselves and doing videos of talking about the expectations, and we share those out with teachers. That way, whenever a teacher might see an issue or a concern with their class in a particular area, they can come back and refresh their class and rewatch that same video and have that conversation over again without pulling in that staff person to do it again. So that's been really helpful.
Thank you. Mr. Fox?
Well, the start of our school year kicks off with senior sunrise. We had 75 seniors meet at 6:30 in the morning on the football field.
first day of school. It's kind of a, the Lion King was playing the Circle of Life in the background, and last year we did an end of the year senior sunset as well. So they play a movie, so it kind of encompasses the whole senior year. I met with each grade level during flex time and talked about expectations as for the seniors and talked, things that are coming up for their senior year. And I meet with the juniors and the sophomores and freshmen one day each. So I go through all those expectations with them. Homecoming, as you've heard a couple times, homecoming is coming up. We're doing coronation during school again. A number of years ago it was during school. And I think because of COVID and having to space out, it got moved to a Sunday night. Last year on Sunday night, there were less than 30 students at coronation. To me, coronation and homecoming is for the students. And so we're moving it back to Pep Fest, that atmosphere on Friday, this coming Friday afternoon. So the 20th at 2:15, we'll start our coronation. These guys have talked about Thursday night. You want to see a busy building? Thursday night's one of the busiest nights probably we have all year. We have home tennis, home swimming, home volleyball, home ninth grade football, and big truck night. So if you want to see a busy building, Thursday night, now you're going to have to park along the way away, but it'd be a great night to see all the different activities that go on in a school on one particular night. So, thank you.
I hope Hans took note of that.
Thank you for your comments. And then moving on to school board members. Mr. Wayne, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Nathan?
No, thank you.
Patrick?
I want to say thank you to Ms. Rom for her presentation. Something that struck me, talking about our teachers and everything, our mission statement about developing full potential of the individual, and it seems to me that we are living our mission statement when we do things like our training for our teachers and making a calendar adjustment that we didn't foresee but we felt was worthwhile. Why? Because we are also living our values, our support value that links to our achievement value, that links to our mission statement. So, and I will always say that how do we teach our students our values? By example. And I think this is one of our cases where we are doing our examples. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ken, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah. I was going to throw something in there here. I went to a football game in Green Bay the other day. Do you have to be a senior? The seniors come in free, right? Or do they have to have a pass?
In Green Bay?
No, in Foley.
I wasn't well versed in Green Bay.
Are you saying senior citizens?
Senior citizens.
So yeah, we're 65 and over are free for all
Do
of
they have
our
to have a
adults.
card or anything?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Because I went to a football game in Green Bay and I walked up to the lady, ticket taker, and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I'm a senior citizen." And she let me through, and there's no problem. Okay. Also, I'm very proud of the scores that came up in the paper. And I know we mentioned this a little bit before, but to have Foley doing better than a lot of the schools in the area, I'm very proud of that fact, and I've always touted that fact to a lot of people in other places and so forth. Also, I was noticing, and I didn't get it from this morning, but I was waiting for Cheryl to come in and said the corn is ready to be $5 a dozen. I didn't hear it this morning, but I think it was last week that was the time I was available. I think that's great, because that's locally grown stuff, right? Okay, the big thing, the other night at the open house, I went probably to every room in the school and visited with every teacher, and it was just fantastic experience. I had to actually leave early because that's some other things to do. But I went around the high school first, and I just so very comfortable with those people that were there. And then I went to the intermediate school, and a lot of classes I walked into, there were a lot of parents in there. And maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I walked in, I said, "Excuse me." And they don't probably, some of them didn't even know I was. But I said, "I'm going to tell you this right now. Your kid is in good hands with this teacher here." And I think the teachers appreciate it. That was in Mary's class, I
You
think.
said that
in
to
your class.
everyone?
Sorry? And I made a point of that. We have good teachers here, and they're doing one heck of a good job, and I pressed it with the parents. And then I hit the elementary school. I even got down into the preschool room, and I just had a wonderful, wonderful experience, and was so proud to be part of this system. Let's see, coming up now, I have on we have a closed meeting tomorrow, on Tuesday. I have resource on Wednesday, and if any of you ever like to come to one of our resource meetings, they are so open. And we actually eat before the meetings, and so sometimes when we break bread, it makes things so much easier. But with this total discussion, we have an agenda, but it is so open, and everybody's, it's just wonderful. So that's on Wednesday. Then we have I have Ben Stearns, Chris will be there on Wednesday. Right after that, we put them both on the same day, so didn't have to go in the same class twice. And then on October 13th, which is the day before the next school board meeting, I've been asked to speak at the Honor Society induction ceremony, and I will do that again. So I'm very proud of being able to do that. Okay.
Stephanie?
I just want to say, I appreciate hearing from our building principals, you know, the grit, the resilience, the speakers that talk about that. Student expectations, that's huge. When they can go around and actually hear from the people that are doing the work, there's so much value in that, so I appreciate that. Just kind of piggybacking off of Patrick with the values. I mean, that's how we show our kids, you know, what we're all about, so I appreciate that. And then, of course, again, this is Ram, I feel like between Dr. Perry, Mr. Kluver, our teachers are in good hands, great hands. So thank you for the work that's being done on behalf of the region.
Sharon?
First of all, thanks to Christy Rom for coming to our meeting and educating us. We're all partners in education. I want to thank all who attended tonight's meeting. Thanks to the Foley Legion for the presentation of colors at the All-American Night football game, and Kinsley Winkleman for doing such a great job singing the Star Spangled Banner. I think it should become an annual event. Also, thanks to the Legion for the generous donation that provided new equipment bags to the football team. Be sure to register for the 5K run walk sponsored by the Foley Athletic Boosters. That is part of the homecoming tailgate party. Also purchase your Foley Athletic Booster raffle ticket. Those tickets will be drawn homecoming night. Fellow board members, in this month's journal are 2 articles of special interest to our board. Frequently asked questions at work sessions and student enrollment trends. Take a peek. They're short articles and they're really with what's going on now. Thank you.
And also, as Sharon stated, we do have the fun run coming up on September the 27th. Foley Athletic Booster Club is sponsoring that. The raffle tickets, as she said, they're $10 each. If anyone wants to purchase them, I do have some. And the prizes are Shields gift cards, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. And then those 5 winners will be drawn at halftime at the football game. And then I just wanted to compliment something that I had firsthand experience with on the first day of school. And I'm sure this happened in every building. I'm sure it happened in every classroom. I'm sure it happened at every lunch period. I'm sure it happened a million times during the day. But I was driving the van that morning, and the radio in the van was never quiet. My whole 45, 50 minutes that I'm driving. And what it was our bus drivers cooperating with one another. Did you pick up the child at whatever address? No, I went past. I'll have to turn around. No worries, I got it. It was one after the other, after the other, after the other, and radioing to the bus garage and, you know, making sure every child that was at the end of their street or at every bus stop was picked up. It might have not been the bus with working out all the kinks and the bugs of the first day, but they were picked up and they were communicated, you know, the communication was constant. And like I said, that was just my firsthand experience, and I'm sure it happened a million times during the day. But I just wanted to make mention of that. And that's all I have. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
Second.